Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. Oh, look at our overlays. They look a little more up to date.
Yeah, yeah.
So the P-LotPodcast 1.7 edition of today's show with the updated, better digs.
Yeah. Yeah.
John here, joined once again by the main man himself, Michael. Michael, how we doing, King? How we feeling?
We are frustrated, I think. I think that's the best way to put it.
Well, so this is what I was talking to my buddies that I work with, and we're just kind of like, this is like the sports dead zone. Like we're waiting for, like, we're like, oh man, training camps in 3 weeks. Oh, my preseason's in 4 weeks. Like for
Yeah.
NFL, oh and then we got hoops in a couple, like six to 8 weeks.
Yeah. And while I love this time, because obviously I love baseball, what I think contributes to the dead zone is the waiting for the trade deadline. It's we know who's out of it, we know who's in it. There's maybe a few teams that are on the fringe of like wanting to start selling or wanting to, stand pat and just see where their team takes them. Um, but more often than not, by like mid-June, you're kind of aware of who's out of it and who's not, and who's going to be trading, you know, their guys away and who's going to be buying whatever. But because of, I guess, like whatever the history of baseball, there's no point in trading your assets away uh, this far out from the trade deadline, unless you're like the Marlins. There's very few times that trades actually get made that are pretty substantial before the deadline, and at least before like the All-Star break. It usually just doesn't happen. So you get in this period from like mid-June until the break where or till the All-Star break, until the deadline, where everyone, all the good teams, all the contenders, they know what their holes are, they know what their issues are, and they know how they want to address them. You get like a full month of leaks of interest and linking teams and players together, all this sort of stuff, and you're just kind of waiting. You're just in a dead period of waiting around, and all you're doing is just waiting for the trade deadline to get closer before teams actually start picking up the phone and discussing legitimate terms. So yeah, it definitely is a slow part of the season. I think once you hit after the trade deadline and the dust settles, that's when you really start that final home stretch into what's probably the best time of the year, which is playoff baseball, early season football, and beginning of season NHL and NBA.
Couldn't say any better myself. So yeah, we said this right before the show. Like, it's the Sixers Summer League. Like, the guys that we were like looking forward to,
Just
um,
not playing, man.
they're just not playing. And like, look, the Sixers roster. I think the Sixers are still going to make one more move before the start of the season. But like, I had a little too much to drink a couple weeks ago, and I texted one of my group chats something about Kyle Lowry, who looks like Kyle Lowry, excellent NBA career.
Like probably gonna get in the Hall of Fame. We
Uh,
know, like the basketball hall, as we know, the basketball Hall of Fame
I feel
is
like he's one of those like the Hall of very good players. Like, I mean,
him getting his
How many All
championship
Star games did
helped.
he go to? A
He's played in a.
6-time All Star. Okay,
I'm
oh
telling
maybe.
you, man, he was good. I mean, he was for a while there, one of the better point guards in the league. It's just, dude, he's 40. This is his 20th year in the NBA. Like we're so far removed from when Kyle Lowry was like an elite player at this point, but he still
Yeah, but
contributes to an extent.
and then I texted my buddies this. I texted them. I'm gonna just Cliff Notes version. I was like when I was in eighth grade, I went to a sports broadcasting camp where Kyle Lowry was a freshman at Villanova. It's time, like in all caps, I wrote, "Time to hang it up, Grandpa."
Yeah, that's honestly pretty crazy. Really puts things in perspective. But no, it's true, man. There's a couple of moves the Sixers have made that I don't know. I'd like them to clear out some of the veterans. I think they've done a really good job at getting younger as a whole, but there's definitely still some elders out there that I'm kind of over.
Because,
But
well, because I feel like if you're gonna go the route of like, oh hey, we're gonna bring in Lowry back because we want him to mentor VJ Edgecombe.
mhm.
I mean, at what point are you just like, why don't you just bring in Kyle Lowry as a coach?
Yeah, like, does he really want to keep playing? I don't know. It's annoying, but
Because you're wasting a roster spot.
the Sixers do have one of the better summer league rosters. But like at this point, you know, I loved how Justin Edwards looked last year. Watching Justin Edwards against a bunch of lower term rookies and second year players, like, sure, it's fun, whatever, but it's not moving a ton of like moving a needle for me, unless he's really start breaking out something new. But I think he just needs to get better at what he was doing last year as opposed to adding a whole new layer to his game at the moment. Um, Adem Bona, I guess watching him and seeing if he's going to be more keen to shooting some corner threes and stuff, because that could really help if he could knock down corner threes and play alongside Embiid at sometimes. But at Dembona in like the first game, he looked like you know a 5-year vet on the floor, man amongst boys, that sort of thing. So regardless, the thing we're getting at here is that VJ Edgecombe has a thumb issue that keeps getting worse by the day in terms of what we're hearing from the Sixers, which again, nothing new there. They're the most frustrating organization in sports when it comes to this stuff, where a thumb sprain or a thumb contusion turns into a sprain, turns into a hand issue, wrist issue. It's so frustrating, and it's the joke, but it's the joke that never dies of, oh well, he's an officially now a Sixer, and it's like, God, can we just please eventually get to a point where I don't have to get excited about some young player and then they're just going to get hurt inevitably
Yeah,
every
wait
single
till
time.
Commanders fans find out with like Jaden Daniels gets thoracic outlet syndrome because it's a Josh Harris owned
Something
team.
just honestly, it's probably him more than anything. But all that being said, enough about the winter sports. Let's get into baseball because we are going to continue our division hop around in the NFL, but we do have some pretty important other stuff to talk about that is
Yeah,
football
NFL.
related.
Yeah, the NFL Players Union is probably like the worst union in like the history of unions.
Maybe, yeah, the the country of the world. Yeah, it's really. Do we want to just talk about that now and then talk about baseball in the division, or do you want to save it
Yeah,
for the end?
so Michael, the so
Alarming.
this has obviously been buried by like ESPN and major news outlets because the NFL is such an important part of our
The revenue stream.
of like major programming because they're
Yeah.
on major networks like Fox,
I
NBC,
mean, truly,
CBS,
what are Fox, CBS, NBC, and ESPN?
ABC because the ABC is the
Yeah,
parent company of
to ESPN. What are
ESPN.
those companies without the NFL? A lot smaller, that's for sure.
Well, since the NFL is the thing that draws the largest ratings because television is now consumed differently than it was 20 years ago. Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the story is back in 2022, under the previous executive director of the NFL Players Association, the union, Demarius Smith, who was the previous director, filed a grievance against the NFL following the Lamar Jackson situation, where, if we all remember, Lamar Jackson was not getting a contract from the Ravens, but weirdly at the same time was getting like zero actual interest from any other team in the NFL. And I vividly remember being in my college house talking about this. Like, I can't fathom, if you don't have a quarterback, how are you not calling? And if you do have a quarterback, they're probably not as good as Lamar Jackson. So why are you not calling?
Yeah, like
Like
if
it
you
was
called and
bizarre.
the Ravens said we won 6 first-round picks, then I could see like, okay, we don't want to do that because we don't want to
Dude,
trade
but even
six
then, I
first-round
maybe would have
picks.
considered it because we're talking about, this is a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. Anyways, no
Well, I
one
think,
was
well, remember at
calling.
the time Lamar had a couple down years. He was banged up. There was the whole thing with he
He
was
was
one
injury prone. He couldn't
well
stay
he was one
healthy
of the
late in the
prominent
year.
like anti-vaxxer players. Like luckily for
Sure.
him, Aaron Rodgers was a complete wacko, so
No, listen,
he got all the
context of
headlines
it,
for that. But like
but no one
Lamar,
wanted Lamar, and it was beyond comprehension, really. Like it was. We were doing some mental gymnastics to rationalize why a team like the Atlanta Falcons weren't going all in on Lamar Jackson. Like, it was ridiculous.
well, he had to go pay Kirk.
Exactly. Like, imagine that. Like, you're to Atlanta,
And
they
they
don't have to
screwed that
draft
up
Penix.
too. They screwed that up too. Did you see the news this week where Kirk was like, if I knew they were going to draft a quarterback, I would have just stayed in Minnesota.
What are you gonna do? So,
He could have been the mentor to McCarthy for the last couple years. You know,
yeah. So this all goes down, and they file a grievance, and we don't get like a decision for a long, long time until January of this year is when essentially the grievance is, nothing weird was going on. Don't worry about it, guys. The new executive director was like, yeah, players, I'm not even, you don't even worry about it. It was nothing. It was a nothing burger, whatever. First time in NFL history with sources familiar with the union where an arbitrator's decision and the 61-page ruling, that sort of stuff has never been shared on the with the union's board and with the players themselves that are a part of the union. So a lot of red flags being raised. No one really knew why. And then finally, the contents, or at least some of it, gets released out. And what it comes to find out is that after the Deshaun Watson contract, which we all know infamously, a fully guaranteed deal for, the creep and a player that is just not even close to what he once was, has been injured a lot, has public scrutiny, private scrutiny, I'm sure, just simply not even remotely close to worth the contract, let alone it being fully guaranteed. Comes out that Roger Goodell and the NFL's general counsel um, were essentially pushing and working with owners and coming up with a little agreements to chill out on the amount of guaranteed money that we're giving players, and using that Deshaun Watson situation and his contract as like, listen, look how bad this went, and it makes it easy to put in the public. Not for nothing, they were very lucky that obviously Kirk Cousins, he was the one that signed like the first fully guaranteed contract when he first went to Minnesota. But that was what, 3 years, like 88 million, something like that. Where,
it
yeah, it's a
wasn't a
lot.
huge
It
contract. Like
wasn't
he took like
enormous
less per year to get more guaranteed
to get it
money.
fully guaranteed. Exactly. So Deshaun Watson was the first fully guaranteed, like massive deal, 5 years, 240 million, whatever it was. And they were able to really lucky to be able to push that in the public of, man, look how the fully guaranteed deal, and look how awful it's turning out for the Cleveland Browns. Where, like, let's say the first fully guaranteed deal turned out to be Lamar Jackson. Would anyone be saying it was a bad contract? No. And what would be happening? You'd be getting all these quarterbacks around the league and all these players around the league that are like, listen, Lamar got this sort of deal. I can get this sort of deal. And now the owners are not where they wanted to be. So what happens? Goodell, general counsel, the owners, they're all chatting and they're essentially agreeing, let's not pay fully guaranteed contracts out anymore. And there's text evidence between owners that are celebrating when contracts get made that don't have a ton of fully guaranteed money. Like, good job not giving Lamar a fully guaranteed something along those lines. And this grievance was filed on essentially the behalf is there were three quarterbacks discussing extensions and contracts during that time, and it was Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and Russell Wilson. And, they got paid pretty well, but not fully guaranteed like Deshaun Watson. And when you have the NFL and their owners and the commissioner of the league and the head of the legal of the league actively pushing and working with owners to ensure that the contracts aren't giving out as much money as the players are kind of negotiating and wanting, that is a direct violation of the collective bargaining agreement, that the owners are colluding with the league to help keep contracts down and keep what players' salaries are down. And I mean, this is why it's such a massive story. We have the head entities of the league working actively against the players.
Well, then this is the thing, though, Michael. I think this is where it's messed up. Is that like, okay? So the union should technically take the NFL to court over it, right?
But the problem
But
is,
the issue is that the new head of the NFLPA,
who
uh,
withheld the information from the players up until this point, and withheld the information from the executive board of the Players Association to this point. Go ahead. That executive director.
turns out that he has a conflict of interest because he is a advisor, or he
I think
he's he's a paid consultant of a group that owns part of an NFL team,
is it the league or the team?
or like a private equity
I
firm.
think I think it's a private equity firm, and it's one of the few firms that invest heavily into the NFL. So he has a vested interest in to protect the NFL more than the players, like more than protecting the players and defending and representing the players. He has more of a reason. And the league knew this, obviously, and decided not to make him quit his job working with the private equity firm. They didn't even give him like it wasn't like, all right, listen, one or the other. You can stay with the equity firm, but you can't be the head of the union, or you can stay the union, but you can't work for the firm. And they just let him do both. And it's a direct conflict of interest. It's one of the more slimy things that the NFL has ever done and ever been a part of. And there's a reason that this story keeps getting buried. It's like the sixth one down on like the news sidebar on ESPN's website. And it's just it's despicable. It's pretty evil,
Well, so
for sure.
I would imagine that can the NFLPA like fire this guy and like hire somebody else? Because here's the thing though, and
I mean,
this
at
is
this
where
point, it's cooked. I don't
I
even
think
care,
I think
you
in
know?
2025, most fans that have an IQ above 80, which I'm setting
Okay.
the bar low there, Michael. I'm setting
That
the
is
bar
pretty low.
low. You should always be siding with the players because the owners are the reason. If your team isn't playing well, they're a big reason why your team isn't good because they're cheap. Michael.
Yeah, like pretty much there are almost zero professional sports franchises. I shouldn't say that, but there's a very small percentage of sports franchises that spend a lot of money in not just like player contracts, but also development and scouting and analytics and coaching and facilities and whatever. There are very, very few teams that are pretty lucrative in spending with all of that stuff and are still a bad team. There's usually you can point to something and be like, that's why this team blows, or that's why this team struggles to do this, this, and that. So yes, in the big year of 2025, if your owner is not shelling out a lot of money, you are going to be in a disappointing franchise, a bad team, not a good team. And yeah, like you said, you should be kind of on the player's side almost in totality. Like it really is a totally different sphere. If you want to think your team's bad and you just want to sit here and blame
Yeah,
a
by
ton
the
of
way, this was
players.
leaked by Pablo Torre, who also leaked the whole like Bill Belichick's
Yeah,
like
his niche is like stories
actual
that aren't going to get
journalism.
yeah, stories that just aren't going to get talked about that probably deserve a little more light. Former ESPN employee that was actually on pardon the interruption yesterday. Michael Wilbon was out and he was in with Kornheiser, um, talking with them. but not about this. Never about this. This will never see the light of day.
Yeah, which let's be. I mean, this is the thing though, which we talk about like in sports. You ask like people like, what do you dislike about ESPN? A lot of people say a lot of like um virtue signaling, right? Like they'll
Sure.
they'll pretend like they care about like social issues and the ills of society,
But when they
and yet
don't
here
do it
is
like
some.
in practice. Yeah.
Well, it's like you're covering sports, and this is a gigantic story. Imagine if like the Tom Brady's contract was colluded with, and then he was like, "F the Patriots, I'm going to leave to go play for X team because they're going to give me the owners rebelling against you know what I mean?" Like,
I mean, this is government level corruption happening in the sports world here. Like truly
you mean the guy who's
high level.
statistically been the best quarterback in the NFL technically the last 2 seasons in Lamar Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Right? Is he statistically been
I mean, he should have won
should have won
back-to-back
the MVP
MVPs.
last year, right?
Yeah.
The only
He
reason he
would
didn't
have he
get it,
would have had his third and back-to-back MVPs.
the
Like,
only reason he didn't get the MVP was because they're like, we can't just keep giving him the award. I guess is that the
which
only reason?
yeah, I guess. But like, yeah, so his contract was totally tampered with. And what makes this all even worse is because we talk about the collusion, the direct conflict of interest with the head of the board, the arbitrator as well. Because how can the arbitrator's ultimate final decision on this case be, yeah, there was no collusion? However, within that same breath, there was also a preponderance of evidence that Roger Goodell and the head of general counsel were urging owners to not give out as much guaranteed money. How can you have, like, direct evidence, but also not make the conclusion that the evidence
Could you
directly
imagine
supports?
if like Rob Manfred and like John Middleton and like Steve Cohen and I don't think of another MLB owner.
Well, like Steinbrenner family or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, we're like called the Dodgers and we're like, yo, don't give Shohei 70 million a year.
Dead serious. Like, the equivalent it's so hard. And look, this is part of the reason that the NFL is different is that the NFL is the only league without fully guaranteed contracts. All the
It's
other
also
ones.
the most profit. I think this is the big issue, and I think if the NFL were to, if the players were to depose the the current union head of
Mhm. The Players Association, right?
the Players Association, Lloyd Howell Jr. That's his name,
Yeah.
Lloyd Howell Jr. That I would assume the new union head is going to want to force a strike because like this sort of as a like they violated the collective bargaining agreement and have to take them to court. And the reason why it's buried, and I think a big reason why you saw like contracts go up significantly this past off season is because it's sort of like we need to shut them up so they don't take us to court
We
because
don't get sued. Yeah, I mean, it's eh, it's a bad look for the NFL. It's certainly, they have some stains, but this is a pretty big stain, with just treating your players and stuff. And again, you'll get that faction of fans that are like, "Oh, players make too damn much money anyways," or whatever. And it's like they only make as much as they do because of how much money the NFL makes. You know what I'm saying? Like if you want the players to make less money, it's not the players' fault. Make it the owner's fault. Make it the league's fault for charging as much as they do for tickets, for charging as much as they do for NFL Sunday ticket, for charging as much as they do to get NFL Network on your TV, to get,
Well, yeah, do you remember the
NFL
NFL
Red
Sunday
Zone.
Ticket like lawsuit where it went to like the district court and it got thrown out because the judge was like, "Yeah, the NFL definitely violated definitely violated antitrust laws here,
Yeah, yeah.
but they're not gonna be held liable for it."
And that's basically what happened here. It was like, yeah, there was definitely some chatter between Goodell and the head lawyer and owners, like, let's not give out as many contracts. But Yeah, it wasn't enough to deem it collusion. It's what do you mean it wasn't?
All
That's
right,
all you need.
all right.
That's absurd.
Let's put our tinfoil hats on because this is a Philadelphia-based podcast. Do you think with the Eagles, with the tush push and the Howie Roseman salary cap manipulation, where it only works because the Eagles spend money
A
to
lot of
do
money
it,
up front. Like
spend
Jeffrey
money that
empties the
because
pockets to give out
that
early bonus
that a
money.
lot of these owners, the ones that don't want to spend money, right?
Or
Um,
Jerry.
it's they feel that Jeffrey Lurie and his spending is going to force the other owners to have to spend money because look at how long it's taking the Cowboys to get Micah Parsons to sign an extension.
Well, they always do it like right at the deadline. It's like a high school English paper. You're turning it in at 11:58 when it's due at 11:59. Like it's what they do with everybody. They wait until it's really getting ugly, it's really getting messy, and we say it all the time. It's honestly probably done out of intention because Jerry Jones likes being in the conversation all the time. And then finally, it's like, all right, we're gonna just fork it over and give him everything you want because why wouldn't we?
But that's
And
always been what he's did.
exactly.
I
So
remember I remember watching like one of those. You ever see America's Game on like NFL Network?
yeah, like
One of
the
the years the
yeah.
Cowboys won the Super Bowl, like Emmett Smith was holding out, and the only reason they got him back was because they started the season 0-2, and then they caved in and paid him.
So yeah, the Eagles conspiracy. I think it might be less that, and it more we're gonna see like a result sort of thing where it's like the Eagles are now gonna start just giving out even a little bit more money up front or a little more guaranteed money than they usually even do. Like what the Eagles do is they showcase very publicly how well they take care of their players and take care of their guys. We talk about it all the time. They had no business needing to give Saquon an extension and a raise, basically. Like they didn't have to. They weren't contractually obligated. I don't think Saquon was going to complain either. Like it wasn't going to be an issue. It was going to be a hold nothing. But the Eagles went out and they were like, listen, you just big reason why we won the whole damn thing. You broke record, all that sort of stuff. Here's a raise and another year on top of it.
Well, dude, it's
They
just like look at the
show
NHL right now. Like we're all bitching about this no state income tax states. The Eagles have basically declared to the rest like the league, it's like, yo, like if you're an agent and like Howie Roseman calls you and he's like, hey, can we schedule a meeting with your client so and so? You're an agent. You're gonna be like, you're gonna want to go play for
hell yeah,
Philadelphia.
because it's true, because it's like, listen, eventually you play in Philadelphia, you play well enough to earn the trust of like the front office to stay and be a part of what we got going on over here. You're gonna get a raise. We see it with every player on the team has gotten pay boosts. AJ Brown, for Christ's sake, got a nice little boost and his contract, little extension on top of it. Devonta Smith signed his big thing. It's just they don't wait till the end, which we know all the time. But it's also like we're gonna give you enough money to make it feel like it wasn't like it was worth signing now. It's a lot nicer seemingly way of doing it, of doing what like the Braves keep doing, where the Braves are always like giving out the gun to the head contracts to Acuna, where Acuna only makes 12.5 million a year, but it's because he signed it when he first came to the league, and you don't know buy at the arbitration the whole thing. So when the Eagles sign a guy like 2 years before they need to, is the player losing out on potentially more money? Sure. Do they get a lot of money up front from bonus money from the owner to make it worth it? Absolutely. Does it also, protect them in case they get hurt and maybe wouldn't make as much money in a couple of years? Absolutely. So the Eagles being very public with their contracts of like, this guy was great. We're giving him a raise. This guy was great. We're going to give him another year. This guy, like that sort of stuff, that makes players want to come here. And especially now, where I think players are now, the antennas are going to be skyrocketing. Like you think Micah Parsons might have been hard to give a contract to now. Now, imagine it's like, well, Jerry, how do I know you're not talking to Robert Kraft about not wanting to give me, a big contract? How do I know that, you know, who the Bengals owners talking to you say, "Hey, listen, don't give him that much because I still got to pay Trey Hendricks," like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's
They
why like you see the things about Trey Hendrickson to the Eagles question mark. It's because Trey Hendrickson's agent is probably telling the Bengals, like,
listen. The
hey,
Eagles will pay up, man.
they're like,
So
hey, I know Philadelphia would love my client. They value edge rushers.
and
Look at
they pay
who
well.
they draft every
Yeah.
year. Defensive line. That's who they draft. That's who they value. And oh yeah, unlike you morons, they're interested in winning. Where you're too cheap. You know,
Yep.
it's how you get these force these teams to like pony up. Like
Yeah. So
that's why you see things with the Eagles where you're like, this makes no sense. But it's because the Eagles are a very player friendly team that they're
yes.
always linked.
Yeah. So to fully to close the circle, I guess. The NFL is really this is ugly. This is an ugly, ugly, bad look from the NFL. Having the owners and the head commissioner just agreeing not to give out as much money to players is very bad, very very bad for the sport. And like we talked about, this is why it's not getting any sort of news time, any sort of airtime. What is interesting to see the fallout is we're going to see what they're going to do with the current executive director, who, by the way, his way to deflect from this whole thing was essentially telling the players, "Ugh, that old executive director, DeMaurice Smith, he wasted so much money and time on this grievance. There's nothing in that decision." Like, he had the decision, he knew what the decision was, chose not to show the players because it would've the players would've been like, I mean, you're kidding me? We got Goodell saying we're not don't give us more money?" And he's telling the players, don't even worry about it. This guy, old guy, wasted so much time with this. This wasn't even worth looking into. Like, what a joke." And turns out it was everything to look into. So it'll be interesting to see how player negotiations go from here on out. Obviously, the offseason is pretty much done in terms of like player movement or whatever, but contract negotiations, there's still some guys that are waiting around for one. So, and especially moving forward, we will see how the players and agents they hold themselves in these negotiations. Now knowing that there is a some group of owners, we don't know how many, we don't know who, were colluding with Roger Goodell
Well, it's
to
going to
not
be
give
like
out money.
CJ. Well, yeah, it's going to be CJ Stroud, Bryce Young,
Yeah, the
Will Levis.
quarterbacks,
Just kidding.
yes. The quarterbacks coming up soon. Receivers coming up soon. Running backs especially. Running backs already think they're getting
Well, there's
screwed, and
already
now you're
collusion
gonna
with the running backs. Remember, when
yeah
everyone was like, "Oh my god, why did the Eagles pay Saquon Barkley?" And it's
yeah.
like you saw the impact he had, and you're like, "Wow, we could."
Baltimore, dude, they gave Derrick Henry pennies, and then he's balling out the way he is, and they gave him a raise. So it'll be interesting, very very interesting to see how things proceed from here on out. But on to baseball before we come back around to the AFC South.
I think we should talk about. Let's talk about the Phillies past week.
Okay. So
So
the dreaded West Coast trip every year, even though San Diego has actually been pretty favorable and nice to the Phillies over the last really like 6 years, they played well.
ever since the
Even before then, they're like since 2019, they're like 33 and 14 against the Padres, something like that. But yeah, especially since the playoffs, they've handled business well, especially on the road too. Can't say the same about San Francisco though. Truly a house of horrors.
it is kind of bizarre.
One of the worst places for a road Philadelphia sports team to have been playing in like the last like 20 years. Like it's been ugly. They just lose in the most unimaginable, inexplicable, frustrating ways. They have fly balls that get caught because that stadium's cavernous. They have balls that kick off the wall like a bouncy ball and roll like a
I
roller
texted you
coaster.
about this during this. I said, I don't know how Barry. It's really
Yeah,
amazing
Bonds was
that
yeah.
Bonds hit so many home runs there, and
Well,
it's
all think of all the I mean, there's a reason, not for nothing, that a guy in San Francisco, a giant, hasn't hit 30 home runs since Barry Bonds. Like we're on year like 21 of that, of the last time someone hit 30 homers for the San Francisco Giants. Maybe it's a little less, but very, very long time since we've had that. And honestly, it just doesn't look like it's getting changed this year. I know Giant is like well on their way to 30 bombs this year. Maybe they get hot in the second half,
What's the
but
name of the Giants ballpark? It's got a new name. I forget.
Oracle.
Oracle Park. Let's see what. Let's look at. Okay, so Barry Bonds played 762 regular season games at Oracle Park, formerly Pac Bell
762. How
Park
about
and
that?
SBC Park, hitting 276 home runs there. He also had 681 walks and 683 RBIs at Oracle Park.
Well, I mean,
FYI, he played like 9 or 10 years before that ballpark was ever opened. By the way,
yeah. So Barry Bonds. The Giants' leading home run hitter at the moment is Heliot Ramos, who has 14 home runs at the moment. He is certainly not on pace for 30. That many home runs at the moment. Like there's a website with pace stats that I'm not going to be able to find, but it's not 30. That's roughly like what you're on pace for, like 25, 26. Next is Willie Adames, who has 12. That's also not on pace for 30. Chapman has 12. Wilmer Flores has 11. So it doesn't look like that's getting broken this
well,
year unless one of
when
those
you have
guys goes on a tear.
dead ball,
Yeah, but John, it's been like
sea
20
level
years. Like
ballpark,
it's been 20
stupidly
years.
cavernous ball. I mean, you saw what the Tigers did. They brought the fences in.
Yeah, but it's been 20 years, and it's not like, I mean, it's been 20 years and they won 3 World Series. Not once. Buster Posey won an MVP. I get it's a catcher and it's hard, so I guess that's his excuse. But like Brandon Belt, he didn't have 1 year in the juiced ball era of just cranking out 30. This is just the season, man. This doesn't mean you have to hit them all at home either. You could hit 22 homers on the road and 8 at home. It doesn't matter. You just got to get to 30. And you don't? That's crazy. So, um, remarkable stuff. Hate that stadium. Never want to play there when it matters.
Dude, it definitely feels like when the Eagles have to play the Cardinals in Arizona, like vibes of like I
Yes,
hate this place.
I hate the place. Absolutely, and it's what it is for sure. So yeah, the Phillies. The story's been the same. The starting pitching is still dominant and elite, and when you don't get it, like if Lazardo has a rough outing, or even a night like last night where Rangers still pitch very well, but a couple unearned runs and he wasn't at his absolute best. When that sort of stuff is happening, the odds of them winning just drops a ton. We saw Bryce look like he was maybe breaking out of it against San Francisco with 4 extra base hits, the first 4 extra base hit game of his career. He looked not great last night. It's one of those things. Honestly,
You
the
can't
All-Star
really,
break for
Michael.
Bryce
As you know this, you can't evaluate players
on a
on
game
like
by game
a
basis.
game
Yeah.
in baseball, football,
No,
yes, basketball, sure, hockey,
sometimes not
maybe,
really. Yeah,
maybe not really either. But I do
but
think. I mean,
yeah.
here's the thing though, too, dude. Is like, look, I think they'll win tonight. I think they'll win Sunday. But my thing though is that I send you stuff all the time of
Hmm.
people that like literally treat it to me. It is so annoying. People treat the Phillies like they're watching football. And I'm not saying like don't criticize the Phillies. That is not what I'm saying. But like you're literally like this is like you see stuff like I don't know like you see things about some of the players. I think like you saw Castellanos chirping at a fan who said something negative to Bone,
It was
like
Stott. It was
or
Stott.
Stott, excuse me,
Yeah.
right, Stott, and like it's like I don't
It's
know,
just it's
man.
such a long season. You play every day, and you want to get harp on things. I get it. They're frustrating, and it's what it is. But there is a large group of fans that just they hang on a thread on every game. And I get it. I'm like a similar way in terms of like every game I watch. I
Oh
hate
yeah,
when
when
they
you watch it,
lose.
yeah, I get pissed. Like, do you think I'm
Absolutely.
like, oh, don't criticize Casty when he takes him
No,
like
but
8 years?
loss on any given night isn't like, I mean, this is the season. This is
Yeah,
what
like
it's going
my
to look
takes
like.
are built up over years of like and months of watching certain players too.
Yes.
But
So,
if you're it's sort of like I'll give you an example. Like Aaron Nola last year, I'm gonna say last year because he's been bad this year because he's been whatever banged up. Like he'll pitch 7 innings, give up one earned run, and then someone's like, "Oh, Aaron Nola gave up another home run," and it's like, yeah, but it was like a solo home run. And he pitched 7 innings and he
right.
struck out
It's
eight
just,
batters. Like
yeah.
you look like an absolute moron.
Yeah. Nola is the fault of like, you're here for too long. So fans just get sick of you. Cause that's very much, you're here for too long on a team that doesn't win. Fans legitimately despise you. That's just
Like
what it is.
Iggy.
Um, dude, it's everybody. Like regardless. So Bryce, I do think the All-Star break's coming at a bad time for him, I'll say. I feel like everybody else could probably use it. I do think that he's a guy that we know it's like clockwork with him, where he gets hurt and he has to come back. He takes time. It just simply takes time. And part of why he doesn't like rehab stints is because he's like facing minor league pitching is just not the same as major league pitching at all. So he's like, it doesn't really help me a ton. But every time we feel like maybe you should have used the minor league stint. But it's just, listen, it's hard to get through when you look and it's like Bryce is 3 for his last 21, and you're like, oh my god. But then he snaps out of it the way he does against San Francisco, and you're like, okay, he's alive, he's okay. But I do think having another week to play baseball here would have been nice to see, just to help him kind of break out of it quicker. I hope this doesn't delay his like timing or whatever, getting it all together. But
I don't know, Michael. He's been playing Major League Baseball since 2009.
yeah, but we just know that's what he is, though. Like he's a, he's got to warm himself up and get his timing together, and just stopping it before he's like fully back. It's just, yeah, it's just whatever. It's. I'm not worried
Honestly,
about
I
Bryce. I'm
gotta be
just saying.
honest, Michael. Honestly, I think the All Star break for some of the guys is good. Like you see with Trey, like Trey Turner has been the Phillies' first half MVP.
He's been
Maybe
struggling as of
him,
late. I do think he
him or
needs.
Wheels.
Yeah.
And like realistically, Michael, like my opinion of Trey Turner has changed. Oh my god, I can. Oh my god, Michael, I can evolve my opinions. Isn't that such a novel concept?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like what? What's is Trey Turner gonna get like 250 hits this year? Like no.
No, he's gonna have a good. He's gonna have a very good season. Like Trey having like a very positive outlier defensive season as well has been very nice. I do think he's made some legitimate improvements that I think will sustain for the remaining time he spends at shortstop. Do I think he'll have a defensive season like this good again? Like no, but I do think there's some actual legitimate changes that were positive and made. So yeah, I'm not listen. I think that the All-Star break is good for the pitchers, especially because the pitchers aren't pitching. Um, and I think it's good for a lot of guys. I think they could just use the time off and really gear up for the second half. But overall, this week has been a frustrating week of Phillies baseball. You hope, like you said, they win tonight and tomorrow and go on a little positive note getting into the break. No one wants to hear it all the time. They're one of the best teams in baseball, although they are pretty deeply flawed. Like all the other contenders have some legitimate flaws as well. So before we get into, I guess, some little trade candidate chatter, trade deadline chatter, I do want to talk about the All-Star game because it's disgusting at this point, and the league is making a mockery of it. And
I just got a message from Major League Baseball. I've been announced as a replacement for the MLB All Star Game
exactly,
over
exactly.
Christopher Sanchez.
So the Phillies, I'm gonna read some quotes here because Matt Gelb actually talked to a lot of the players yesterday after their loss about all this stuff going down with the All Star stuff. So The two originally and lone named All-Stars for the Phillies were Zach Wheeler and Kyle Schwarber, both of which very deserving. However, there were two more guys that were absolutely fully deserving that didn't get it. One being Trey Turner, who they didn't even think to ask to be a replacement, and then Christopher Sanchez, who should have made it from the jump as he's been a top five pitcher in all of baseball. Like, let alone being the second or third best pitcher in the National League, he's been a top five pitcher in the sport behind, like, as far as WAR goes, behind Wheeler, Skeens, and Scooble. And then it's Christopher Sanchez. So he continues to go like criminally underrated in terms of just deserving the recognition. But what it comes out to be is that even though he didn't make it originally, which is dumb that he didn't make it originally, he cannot be named a replacement because replacements have to commit to being available to pitch in the game. And since Christopher Sanchez is pitching on Sunday and the game is on what, Wednesday, Tuesday, or
Yeah, he's
Wednesday,
not going to be able to pitch.
he's not going to be able to pitch. And the fact that this honor gets removed from a player or not given to a player simply because they happen to just be pitching on a day that is like their scheduled
Yeah,
start.
this isn't complicated. Make the All-Star game on like a Thursday and then extend the break.
Or like just give him the freaking honor and then replace him. You have 15 replacements in the All-Star game this year. It's okay if you say, "Hey, Christopher Sanchez, he's an all-star, but he's not going to be able to pitch, so we're going to name
Like
another
Zach
guy."
Wheeler, like where they be like look at like Wheels, like
Well,
Wheels.
Wheeler turned it down. But dude, it's the fact that Christopher Sanchez now would be a back-to-back all-star, two-time all-star at this point. When you go look at his 2025 season and we see that he finishes third in Cy Young voting, but he wasn't an all-star, and we're like, well, oh, he must have had a bad first half. And then you go look at his first half and you're like, Jesus Christ, this dude was the third best pitcher in baseball in the first half. What the hell was happening? And it's like, oh, he pitched on the Sunday before the All-Star break, so he doesn't get the honor? What an absolute joke. And not for nothing, you look at some other teams just to make sure their guy pitches in the game. Detroit Tigers, Tarek Skubal sucked yesterday, went 5 innings, gave up 4 runs. You know why? Because he was pitching on shorter rest. His last outing, where he went 7 innings of 10 strikeouts, shutout ball, 6 days rest. The last 2 years, he's been incredible on extra rest. On 4 days rest, like normal rest, hasn't been as great. They moved up his start so he could pitch in the All Star game. If I'm a Tiger fan, I'm pissed, dude. I'm moving up Scubal's start just so he can pitch in the meaningless nothing game that is the All-Star for an inning. What are we doing here? Like, that's ridiculous. And the Phillies clearly don't give a damn about that and aren't operating like that
It's
because they've had
see like it's not the point of being named an All-Star isn't to be in the game. It's about
the honor. Like
it's
it's
the honor. It's for your future contract
or
negotiations
current
and for
contracts.
certain guys, Hall of Fame considerations.
It's current contracts. Christopher Sanchez, God love him because he signed such a team friendly deal, and we finally have a demon on a contract that isn't like totally crippling. And he has an incentive to make an all-star team. Part of his contract and what's so team friendly, but also the player side of it is like, listen, you're not making a lot of money per year, but if you make all-stars, we're giving you another check. And he's not. I really hope the Phillies do right and do what like the Eagles do. And you see this happen a lot in the NFL because there's always incentives week 17, week 18, whatever. I really hope the Phillies just give him the extra money that he would have gotten for the All-Star team because he
Are you
really,
allowed to do that in the CBA though?
why wouldn't you? I mean, did the owners agree to not do this? Why would the owners agree to?
I mean, Michael, the history of baseball owners and being cheap and
I mean, that would be pretty disgusting, I will say.
purposefully like underpaying the ethnicities of certain players for certain
No, for
years
sure. Yeah.
and
I ugh.
Kurt Flood essentially inventing free agency because he took them to court.
I hope, man. I hope that he somehow gets the pay for it because
What
like
was his
and you also
bonus? How much
said
was the bonus worth?
I'm sure it was probably like maybe like 200,000 or something like
The
that. I don't know.
Phillies
Like
make a donation to the a $200,000 donation to the Christopher Sanchez fund
foundation.
foundation.
Um Yeah, so I hope so, because it's a joke, and like you
So
also talked about it too, that like Hall of Fame consideration, which by the way, no more Hall of Fame consideration for me. I don't give a damn if you made an all-star team. That isn't even making up 1% of my consideration on if someone deserves to be in the Hall or not. It means nothing. It actually means 0 to be an all-star at the
I
moment.
think back in the day it does, but nowadays no.
I think now it might start getting frowned upon a little bit
Well,
more.
like,
I don't
well,
think
yeah. So, like,
I feel like it's gonna take till this where it's
what
like
do you
such an
think about
obvious
people
snubbing,
pissed? What do you think about this whole like honorary All Star? Like, you take
a
a player,
legacy all-star.
the
I think
legacy All
that's
Star.
fine. I don't think it should count. Like, I think it should be its own separate thing. Like Clayton Kershaw, extra all-star appearance because he made it in 2025 with like a 6 ERA. Like, no, that's stupid. I don't think that should count
Well,
on his
so the whole
resume.
legacy All Star thing kind of started with Cal Ripken and Tony Gwynn, and then
Did it? The most recent I remember, I
was
mean, was just like Miguel
Yadier Molina.
Cabrera. Uh,
Miggy, yes.
did well, Yadier didn't make it. I thought it was just
What?
Pujols.
Well, Pujols, but like Molina got named. So they used to name guys, not and they weren't quote unquote honorary. It was just like so. Okay, so this is how the reserves and pitchers are selected for the MLB All Star Game. There's several factors that play into it, and you're going to take and I'm going to let you guess at why Christopher Sanchez is not an All Star. So obviously, fan voting. Fan voting. If you're, let's say you
Well, they
got
don't vote for the pitchers though.
well reserves too. If
Oh,
you think
okay.
about it, like if the guy finished second, right, and was really good, he should be. That should give him strong consideration to be a reserve. The player ballots. The players themselves vote on the pitchers and reserve players for both teams. The managers. So the two managers from the previous World Series. So Dave Roberts of the Dodgers and Aaron Boone of the Yankees are going to be the managers in this year's All Star game. And then the commissioner's office also has a role. So Michael, who do you think wanted Jake Mizorowski and David Peterson
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be in the
So
All Star game?
yeah, so with
Rob Manfred.
Mizorowski, with
Rob,
Mizorowski getting named, that's a pretty big joke. You know,
because
five,
they
he's only
think he's
made
the
five
next Skeens.
starts.
They want to promote him as the next Skeens.
That's fine. It's not in the All-Star game though. Then have a Rising Stars game or something like that. Then do that. Do what the NBA does and put like I
Yeah, that
don't
costs
know.
too much
It's
money.
just sure, it's just dumb because obviously Sanchez not getting selected, and it's solely being because of the fact that he's pitching on Sunday, like, is the only reason he's not in there. Is it's pretty terrible. The Major League Baseball told the Phillies a replacement player can only be named if he agrees to pitch in the game. By rule, Sanchez cannot, which is dumb. This also applies to Ranger because the league actually asked Ranger if he wants to be an all-star. And he said no, because he wants to just rest and get ready for the second half of the season. So that's another thing. Just give him the honor. Just give him the honor and then replace them already. You have so many guys. Schwarber said, even if you're going to ask him that, then just label him as an all-star at that point, not just say, hey, can you pitch in the game or not? And if you get the no, be like, all right, not an all-star, sorry. Schwarber gave a good point too. He goes, when they're talking about whether it's a throwback day or a 10-year reunion or whatever, and they announce Christopher Sanchez, he was a whatever time all-star. You're taking that away. You're taking all of that away. And that just it's really wrong on the part of the player. And I think honestly next year we might see a change. For this because there is a lot of outrage for it because it's ridiculous. I mean, the Phillies players themselves have been ripping it. Trey Turner is like livid about this. He said, "What a
Who
joke!
also got
That's
snubbed?
effing." He said, "That's effing terrible." I mean, that's terrible. Um, Nick Cassiano said it's turning into the Savannah Bananas. Uh, JT Romuto said that's just how Major
Oh,
League Baseball
Savannah
does it
Bananas
now.
catching a stray there from Casty. That's kind of
Yeah,
funny.
he said, nothing against the Mizorowski kid, but those two, talking about Sanchez and Suarez, are deserving of being on the team in the first place. There's just no doubt about it. Turner asking does Mizorowski making the All-Star game cheapen the honor like as a whole? And he said, yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not the All-Star game in the sense that the best players go there or the people who've had the best seasons go there. It's whoever can sell the most tickets or has been put on social media the most. That's essentially what we're turning this into. If he's not an all-star, then no one's an all-star. Talking about Christopher Sanchez, um, he should be named and he should have just been named an all-star, even if he can't. 15 of the 79 named all-stars are considered replacements. What else do we have? Nick Castellanos. Major League Baseball is really just focusing on the most marketable players. So the fact that they can have somebody in the game that's going to blow out one inning and throw 100, 300, 4 miles an hour, they're going to get more eyes on the baseball game. They're going to think it's getting more popular. Trey Turner. This is unacceptable that they can't name him and do the same thing that they've done to everybody else. So the only excuse that the guy's not in the game is that he can't pitch that day. That's terrible.
So let me
Shout out
ask
the
you
players,
this.
man, for standing up. Shout out Trey. Shout out the vets for really standing up for their
Yeah, because
guys,
they
because
know
that's
what it
good.
matters when you negotiate future contracts.
I mean, if Christopher Sanchez, we talk about it all the time, it's directly costing him money from the incentive-based situation. But let's say he wasn't on a contract and he was going to hit arbitration this year. The arbitration conversation quite literally goes like, okay,
He wasn't an
you
all-star.
you made an all-star, you finished ninth in Cy Young voting, and you pitched in X playoff games, and like, all right, what are you worth? Like that, it is a year by year conversation. What you did for me last year is what determines your arbitration number. And if that were this case here, he's gonna finish in the top 5 of Cy Young voting, like without a doubt. And they're going to be like, well, you weren't an all-star, so that knocks you down like $1 million.
Michael, Christopher Sanchez is a Paul Skeens sore elbow and it like a potential like Zach Wheeler like IL stint of winning the Cy Young. Think about that. And you got
I know,
snubbed
John.
for the All-Star game.
He's gonna
Isn't
finish.
that like the dumbest? That's like what did Bryce make the All-Star game the year he won MVP in 2021?
No, because he was
Because
hurt.
J-Roll didn't go to the All-Star
He
game
was.
when he won the MVP either, I don't
I
think.
mean, neither did Ryan Howard. So, like, it's
This is how
really.
stupid this is. So let me ask you,
I
okay, so let's put this out there. Bud Selig hated Philadelphia because we booed people or some BS. Basically, we're very adept at sniffing out bullshit, is what I would
Sure.
say. The All-Star Game's going to be in Philadelphia next year. And listen, not everyone that's going to attend that game is going to
So
be
there's going
a
to be
Phillies fan.
12 All-Stars for the Phillies.
I would imagine so, because if he got snubbed again, guess what we're going to do when we go to the game? We're going to boo every single pitcher that
non
gets on
non
the
Phillies
mound that's not a
pitcher.
Philly. Boo them into oblivion.
Yeah, no. Next year we're gonna see what 2024 was. What would the Phillies have? 7 All-Stars in 2024. We're gonna have the whole
I am
starting
on Walker.
rotation in
You
there,
are an
man.
all-star.
We're getting the full. We're getting all 5. Ranger, man. God. Anyways, okay. Enough ranting because I'm pissed.
You
I'm
feel
I'm for
better?
sure. Do we want to? You know what? I'm out of the mood. I might just want to save the deadline for next week because it's not like anything's gonna change.
Yeah, like yeah, because
Like
I
we
don't
have
know.
the All-Star, like nothing's gonna. I'm pissed. I
No,
don't want to talk about baseball
trade rumors
anymore.
always ramp up during the All-Star game because all the agents and GMs
They're
are
all together and
there.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. All right.
Let's
So
just talk about. Let's
breaks on
talk
that.
about.
I'm pissed.
All right, so let's just talk about the.
Oh,
Is this the worst division in the NFL, or would you say the NFC South is the worst division in the NFL?
the NFC South is worse. I think the AFC South is sneaky. Could be sneaky good. Like genuinely, I think
Mm.
that there is a chance. You can make an argument honestly for every team to win the division, in my opinion. without it being like the worst thing you've ever heard, or without it being like, oh, well, it's because the division winner won only 8 games, that sort of thing. Like you can spin me any team in this division winning 10 games, I think. It's a some of them are larger spins than others, obviously, like the Titans and I guess the Colts. But I do think that these teams all made improvements and do have some legitimate strengths despite having some
Well, there's nowhere to go but
pretty big
up,
question
right?
marks. No, for sure. So I guess let's start at the bottom, who is probably the least. I don't know. We could start with the. We could start with the. You know what? I'm gonna start with the Colts. Let's start with the Colts because I think they have a decent shot to finish last. Um,
I agree with you on that.
yeah, because Anthony Richardson, has not been living up to expectations. Anytime he does sort of start to look like he's getting into a rhythm, he's getting hurt. And Shane Steichen has been struggling pretty heavily as the head coach in terms of just the culture things, the mentality things of the players, getting the players ready to play, big games and you got to show up. And they just haven't been doing that in the last 2 years. Yeah, it's been kind of a struggle, but you look at their outlook, I guess, and a lot of it is just like, listen, is Anthony Richardson going to be able to be healthy and can they finally figure something out? Like they got Jonathan Taylor, who's one of the best running backs in the NFL, and you can really have a dynamic running attack with whether it is Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. I think they're going to be able to run the ball pretty effectively. But it's just a matter of throwing it. Like it's a big question mark with the quarterback position because we know what Daniel Jones is, we know it's bad. We most people I think are starting to feel pretty confident in what Anthony Richardson is, and it's bad. But I there is still, I think, some potential in there to get a good quarterback out of it.
Well, so the thing with Anthony Richardson now is reported that he has a shoulder issue similar to what shortened his promising rookie season in
Mhm.
2023. And like now it's the joke is Daniel Jones is Indiana Jones, because plays in
That's a
Indianapolis, Indiana.
horrible, horrible, horrible. God,
Yeah.
okay.
But because they're a horrible. Well, Michael. So here's the thing with the Colts is that they drafted Tyler Warren in the first round, and when you look at the Colts themselves, the Colts are like the Eagles, but like if you watch any like those Marvel movies with like the multiverse, where there's like the evil counterpart to like Captain America or like Iron Man or something. Like Chris Ballard is like the evil counterpart to Howie Roseman, where he thinks he rips these teams off and he actually is just screws himself over. Like my buddy sent me a YouTube video where it said the greatest trade in NFL history that nobody talks about. It was when the Eagles traded Carson Wentz to the Colts,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And like they're just not a well-run team. And now that Jim Irsay passed away, and now that it's being run by his daughters, there is a belief that potentially that like the NFL, who we just talked about 30 minutes colluding to screw the players over, like the NFL may try to get itself involved in the Colt situation, maybe to sell them.
Yeah, to get him
Because
to
maybe
new
they don't want
ownership.
to deal because there isn't because I don't think the NFL to me wants to have female owners, to be honest. Like I know like the Benson, like Gail Benson owns the Saints and they're having their own serious issues right now with the
Yeah,
whole
and
Catholic
the
Church scandal that they're linked to.
yeah. No, for sure. There's the NFL, God, regardless. No, the Colts, you look at their roster and it's like they have an intriguing group of receivers that just feel like they're all solid. Like I was pretty high on Michael Pittman entering last year and he did nothing but disappoint me. Um,
If you take Josh Downs or Michael Pittman and put them on the Bills, they would easily be the best wide receiver on
they'd
the
be
Bills.
very good. Alec Pierce is good. Like Adonai Mitchell. combine that, they did draft Tyler Warren. Their offensive line's like okay. Their defense has some pretty nice pieces to it. Like I do think DeForest Buckner is pretty good. Quiddy Pay is
Franklin.
solid. Laitu Latu, Franklin, and then their secondary is pretty good. I like their corner room, Kenny Moore and Travarius Ward. They have
Yeah, but
guys. They really.
they gave up the most yards on the outside out of any team in the NFL last year,
Mhm.
too. So it leads me to believe. So this is why I look at the Colts is that I think
They went
Shane.
and got Travarius Ward to help that.
So Shane Steichen was an RPO merchant, and then when the NFL passed the rule for the illegal man downfield, because
Well, not that. It was more like RPOs kind of need to be like lateral, kind of like it's very the way you're kind of handing the ball to the running back can't be as north and south. And it's just like they made it very finicky where you can't abuse it as well.
and I think because Steichen hasn't adjusted to that at all, or is having trouble adjusting to that, and plus the
Hmm.
fact that he's just not Michael. There's some coordinators who I think are good, really good coordinators to become head coaches, and they're just not able to handle it. Like the
Yeah, and I think
accountability.
Steichen's that guy. I think Steichen struggles with a lot of the people skills that it takes to be a very good head
Like,
coach.
and I think there's certain guys that do like guys who got rough. Like, there's guys that got jobbed their first time they were coaches. Brian Flores definitely
Hmm.
comes to mind for me. Like, should he
Hmm.
be an NFL head coach again? Like, I think he should.
Eventually, yeah, like
I think
yeah,
he should because the Dolphins are an absolute joke and a dumpster fire,
right,
and anyone who constantly defends them are absolute blithering morons or
right,
sycophants. Omar Kelly, Joe
yeah.
Shad, but um,
But then you look at guys that shouldn't, and it's like Jim Schwartz, where it's like Jim Schwartz was a head coach
yes,
for a
Jim Schwartz
while.
should never be allowed to be a head coach again.
He was that good for a while and struggled, and then comes here, wins a Super Bowl, goes to Cleveland, and has really employed some of the better defenses in the NFL
He was
despite
just in
being the
Cleveland.
Browns. Yeah, and it's like he should not be a head coach, and I think Steichen is falling closer and
Well,
closer to
the guy
that.
that was always thrown around that name was Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips is one of the best
Yeah,
defensive coordinators of all time. When he went to coach the Cowboys, he won some games, but it was like he didn't
it's
last
what
very
they've
long.
been. It's been very it's been what we've been watching for the last 25 years. Like it's nothing. He didn't do anything to actually move a needle. So yeah, the Colts, it truly, it's all going to come down to the quarterback. I think what's around them is enough to like contend for the division and maybe win a playoff game, depending on how good the quarterback situation looks. Maybe it's further, but I think the roster is certainly capable of just straight up winning games in the division, winning enough games to make the playoffs and stuff. But it's all gonna come down to the quarterback, whether that be health, whether that be just straight up quality of play. It's very uncertain, and it's why they're a pretty big question mark, and, like, doing anything Colts related is a pretty big gamble. You just don't know what you're going to get. You don't know if Richardson's gonna be healthy. You don't know if he's healthy. Is he going to put it together? It's probably safer to bet on them not because of just what we've seen in the past and the way this Colts team kinda quit last year, I thought was pretty telling. I'm honestly surprised that Steichen even survived last year the way that
I
they
think the
quit.
reason he survived was I think because there was things going on with the Colts where maybe Jim Irsay wasn't able to make a decision on that. You know,
Right?
maybe he thought because of his ill health that it would have been kind of unfair to fire Shane Steichen because he was a very involved owner with
Yeah.
the team. You know,
Yep. Well,
I would say this is that it's not. I would not be surprised if somehow Peyton Manning is going to be the one that's going to run the Colts sooner rather than later. Sort of like how Brady is now with the Raiders. He's going to be in a Brady
interesting.
position.
Interesting.
I would not be surprised. I think the NFL may actually reach out to Peyton Manning to do that because we need to see Tom Brady and Peyton Manning more. Now.
Next on the docket, we have the Tennessee Titans. First overall pick, Cam Ward, who I think we view pretty
I
like
think
good
Cam
regard.
Ward, of all the number one overall pick quarterbacks to come in, I think he's going to be one of the more pro ready.
Yeah, I do think he's pro ready. We talk about how we think his ceiling might be a little limited, but we think his floor might be pretty solid. And he's
Roethlisberger.
he's saying all the right things. He's doing it like he's carrying himself in a way where it's like very ready to take the keys of the franchise sort of thing. It's like it's he knows where he got drafted, like all that sort of stuff. He seemed very much like he got heavy PR training of like, listen, man, you're gonna be, the face of the tight, all this sort of stuff. Like you're gonna be the quarterback that kind of breaks the Titans out of a funk here. Um, and you look at what they did with their receiver room. They had Calvin Ridley, and then they adding Tyler Lockett. I think he's a nice veteran receiver to have. Super sure-handed, even though he does seem pretty washed. It's just a nice player to have.
Wow. So what do
They're
you think? Yeah, well, so I think what's kind of cool with Cam Ward is that Warren Moon, Hall of Fame quarterback, Michael,
and
uh,
let him wear one. Like
let him
that's
wear one. And he's like, it's nice seeing older players being respectful to the younger players. I think he wants to kind
Mhm.
of mentor him. And I think it's cool. The Titans are letting him do it,
Yeah,
recently was the anniversary of Steve McNair being murdered. To sound more morbid, Steve McNair is the greatest quarterback in Titans history. So it's
for
like
sure.
they would love to get, and obviously he was a different quarterback than what Cam Ward is.
Mhm.
But don't you feel like the Titans have like some talent there where like if they just had a semi decent quarterback last year, they could have won like 6, 7, 8 games?
Absolutely. Like you look at their offensive line, they drafted J.C. Latham this year, drafting Skoronski last year. They added Kevin Zietler. Like their offensive line is pretty solid, all things considered. The receiving room is pretty solid. They also added Van Jefferson. Like that's a good like depth receiver to have, take the top off, that sort of thing. And their defense for the last like handful of years has just been like kind of good. Like they've had a good defense pretty often, and it's just a matter of like by the time middle towards the end of the season rolls around, it kind of just gives out on them because their offense has been so putrid that they're just gassed and the season's over and you sort of check out. So Titans are a sneaky team that if Cam Ward comes out looking good and can avoid some of those rookie struggles and stuff, they could certainly be a little contender in this division for sure. I think I'm over not overly. I think uh I cannot think of the word I want to say. I think I'm more positive on the outlook of the Titans in the near future for sure. Maybe not this year, but
Yeah,
pretty solid.
I mean, I think the Titans could definitely surprise some team. I think they could win 5 or 6 games, but I could see the Colts only winning three. Honestly, I think this is the scenario, Michael. I'm going to lay out
Mhm.
this scenario. I'm going to look into the future. I think the Colts will finish with the worst record in the NFL.
Wow.
If they didn't want to show up for Steichen last year, what makes you think they're going to want to show up for him this year? Like I know what you're going to say. Well, what about Nick Glad 2 years ago when it looked like he
Yeah.
was dead coach walking? Well, you see, that team had a very deep roster, competent GM, and it sounds like to me the players. It wasn't so much Nick; it was so much the coaches under Nick that were
Sure.
the issue.
Sure.
Where
Sure.
this is just blatant. Like Shane Steichen is like Kevin Bacon at the end of Animal House, where the riot is happening. He's like, "All is calm, all is well, all is calm,"
Yeah.
and he gets trampled. Like that's
Yeah.
like Steichen.
Yeah.
Very outdated reference. Your dad knows that reference.
There's a lot of people that probably you're definitely on like the younger end of that spectrum in terms of that reference. Like my generation it does not really get the Animal House reference, and if they do, it's like something that my dad's like, "Oh my god," love that. That's
Yeah.
such like a my dad age group movie, like Gen X. That is. But anyways, next team I want to talk about are the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now,
Wait, can I just say my conspiracy about
oh
the
sure.
Colts? If Peyton Manning like next year becomes like the Colts, like whatever Tom Brady guy,
Hmm.
and the Colts had the first overall pick,
Hmm.
you're gonna mean Arch Manning's gonna be like say, "Hey, Uncle Peyton, I would love to play for the Colts, but like I want to go back to Texas and get like $5 million again."
Right.
No, that's not happening.
That could
He's gonna
be
go to the
that's
Colts. That's what's gonna happen. This is what they do. This is what the
listen,
Colts
if
are.
Peyton wants to actually run a team, the Colts would be the one. So we'll keep an eye out over the next, I guess,
It's not gonna be
7 months or
Denver.
so. No, it's not. So next team we have are the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a team that I do think is I I think they have a really good shot to win the division. I think they have a legitimate shot to they wouldn't be worse to first because the Titans finished last, but the Jags were awful. Awful to watch. They were a drag. It was just excuse me, it was terrible. And a lot of it was Trevor Lawrence was banged up. A lot of it was Doug Peterson was certainly just out of his element. He was so overmatched,
I
and it
think he
was
was
just
cooked. I think Doug was just
yeah.
done with coaching.
I think Doug's
I
done.
think Doug was done with coaching like when the Eagles fired him.
I think he was done with coaching after they like their first year they made the playoffs and then missing the playoffs the following year. I think that was like, all right, Doug's like, this is too much for me. But Liam Cohen, who we all think is a pretty good mind, a strong coordinator presence, and we do
Duval.
think I think he's got that coaching quirkiness that is a good thing. I think he's closer to the way Jonathan Gannon is, where the players love Jonathan Gannon and they respect Jonathan Gannon a lot, versus Mike McDaniel, where they like him, but I don't think they respect him as a leader as much. They like him like he's their friend. I think Gannon is liked as like, this is a guy I really want to
This is
go
the
out and
big
play
this is the
for.
big test for like Liam Cohen though is that when he took over the Bucks over
Yeah.
for Canales, it was don't screw this up. And I thought he did. The offense took a big, not a big
I
step,
think it
but
got
took a step
better.
forward. Got
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
right? And I think we both think Dave Canales is a good coach, right?
Totally.
Right? He's coming in to basically be like, we just gave Trevor Lawrence $50+ million, like undeserved. Like we need to make this work. And I feel like there's tools definitely there. And the new GM, like Gladstone, James
Yeah,
Gladstone,
he is like
made a massive investment in bringing in
one
Travis Hunter.
yeah, he's like the wonder kid, like, you know, super
He's like Howie
calculating
Jr.
young guy.
Howie
Yeah,
Jr. He's
that's
aggressive. He wants to make
he's
moves.
an aggressive young guy that
He's like he got rid of Gabe Davis, which was
is really
like
yeah,
it's like his first
exactly.
move. He's like, we're getting rid of Gabe Davis. He's done, out of here.
Listen,
Like,
I love the Jags receiver room, like for
BTJ.
sure. Brian Thomas Jr. is awesome. Love Brian Thomas Jr. Takes the top off, great route runner. Truly a very I think he's a top 10 receiver, like back end top 10 that has a chance to put himself into some conversations this year. I love Travis Hunter. I think he's a great prospect. I'm super intrigued to see what he's going to come out as. According to ESPN, he's their fourth corner, like first backup corner, and then number two receiver. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with that. And then De'Ami Brown, I think, is a great fit as their number three receiver. Like De'Ami Brown was the Commanders' number two receiver last year, really, and I think he's going to thrive as a number three, especially under those two. We know how much Liam Cohen loves to run screens, and De'Ami Brown was very good with Washington in the screen game. And I think that with a little less pressure as being the number three and also playing in Jacksonville, I think De'Ami Brown is poised for another good season, perhaps a better one. Like Lawrence has people to throw the ball to. Their tight ends are a little with like Brenton Strange and Johnny Munt, but overall, I think their receiving room is good. I still like ETN, but they got Tank Bigsby and Biyashel Tutin. It's a solid offensive weaponry. The offensive line still has a little bit to be desired, but I think Liam Cohen is smart enough to know that and isn't going to try to like draw up these elaborate, deep, long developing plays. He's going to really urge to for Lawrence to be getting the ball out of his hands quick. I mean, it's exactly what Baker did when he got to Tampa. What was the first order of business they had him do? I know it wasn't Liam Cohen right away, but all of a sudden it was Baker's getting rid of the ball in like a second. And it's when Baker's good versus when he's not good is you can look at time to throw. Like that is the perfect, the first thing you could look at to really get an understanding on how Baker's looking. So I think that's going to be similar to what's going on in Jacksonville. Their defense has some names: Josh Hines Allen, with Trayvon Walker, Eric Armstead they acquired. Excuse me, Jordan Lewis. Like they have guys. I'll be really intrigued to see what they do with Travis Hunter. I think he's ready to be like a pro corner immediately. I do think he has a little bit of work to do as a receiver. So it's a big question mark because we still don't know what the plan actually is. But I do think there's a lot that can go right for this team, and a lot of it starts with Liam Cohen and obviously Trevor Lawrence being healthy and kind of breaking out. We're waiting for him to get to a point where the only people praising him are not just like you know, the nerd community where it's like he has no help. Look at these throws he makes that gets dropped and
Yeah, no,
his
that's the
whatever
that's the thing
analytics
where
and
like
stuff.
the nerd community. I gotta be honest, Michael. The nerd community is starting to piss me off a little bit because like they only care about if you have talent, and it's like, and if you don't put up stats, they'll try to find or create these stats to justify like this person being good because their opinion, their pre-draft opinion was this guy is going to be great. And listen, man, Trevor Lawrence, very highly touted prospect, you know,
Yeah, one of the
right?
biggest since Luck.
Dude, the he's obviously not a bust. Obviously not a bust. Like,
No, because I don't think he's bad, and you don't think he's
right?
bad. Like he's not a
Right?
bad quarterback.
But at the same time, man, like there's a point where you kind of there's a term, it's like poop or get off the pot, and I think he's at that point where it's like they're bringing in help for him. You bring in one of the most up and coming offensive minds. They're building up, they're rebuilding the offensive line. But like the team that we think is going to finish in first place has a worse O line than them, and their quarterbacks is overcoming it. Like you know,
There's
I think
there's
that's a good segue to talk about the Houston Texans.
yeah. So the Texans' offensive line is horrible, and John, it might have gotten worse, honestly. Like,
Well, let's think of it this way. So
dude, it's so bad. It's so
to
bad.
me, it's sort of like there was a lot of toxicity. They were like the 2023 Eagles on offense. They just never had any like sync or rhythm.
Sure.
And that's why when the Chargers lost to them in the playoffs, like we're like kind of whitewashing it now with Herbert because now it's like Herbert versus Hurts like debates or something. We're now like Justin Herbert like pissing and crapping all over himself against like
Oh, for sure. But we got to give some credit. Like the Texans have one of the best defenses in the league. Like
well, yeah,
that
well,
can't go
precisely, but
unsaid.
it was basically like yes, correct. Like
We were counting. We were assuming a home
nobody
playoff.
picked the Texans to win that game, Michael.
No, we were assuming a home team was going to lose a playoff game as if the Texans won the division with 6 wins. Like it was that's how that was just how it felt. Like were we wrong? Like obviously, but at the moment it felt pretty like we were so confident that the 3-point underdog road team was absolutely going to win, and we didn't give them any credit. And I think them winning is a lot of credit towards their head coach, D'Amico Ryans, who I think is one of the best coaches in the league for sure. Leader qualities. We knew he was going to be great with this just based on his actual playing career. And then also intellectually, we also knew based on his playing career that he was going to be great for a head coach. And his coordinator career was excellent with San Francisco. It was, seamless when he replaced Robert Saleh. So he's very, very, very good at what he does. And he's very, very just he's just great. He's a great head coach. And the Texans defense, I think, got better. Their secondary is very, very good with Stingley and Lassiter and Petrie. They added C.J. Gardner Johnson, which adds some good nastiness to them too. They're you know Al Shire was very good. Their pass rush is pretty lethal with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. It's a very, very good defense. Like it's one of the best defenses in football. And
Oh yeah.
like their offense has some very skilled players. I think CJ Stroud is good. I think he's quite good. I think Joe Mixon is pretty dang good. And you also added Nick Chubb, who granted we don't know how cooked he is, but like that's a nice body to just have as a backup running back. And like they have 3 running backs on the roster. Granted, Dameon Pierce never lived up to the hype of what everyone kind of thought he was going to be, but they have 3 running backs that are nasty and hard to tackle, whether they're fully healthy or whatever it is. They're nasty. Their receiving room, unfortunately, Tank Dell, we'll see how he comes back with his injury. But Nico Collins is a freak, one of the best receivers in the league, absolutely. Christian Kirk, I think this is a really good situation for him. Christian Kirk was paid to be like the number 1 in Jacksonville or whatever, and that was just kind of ludicrous. Like,
Well, yeah.
I think that
It
this is
was
a
like
much
Pierre Garcon when he was like the highest paid
right,
receiver.
right. I think this is I think it's a very good fit for him. Maybe we'll see John Mechie kind of start breaking out a little bit more. They have guys. Dalton Schultz, I think, is a very solid tight end. It's just their offensive line is so terrible. It is so bad. And it is certainly it's why we think the Texans have the best shot to win the division, but it's a big reason as to why I think the Jags can.
Like,
And honestly, when I pick it, I'm probably going to pick the Jags to win this division because I just think that offensive line is certainly enough to tank the offense again. Like it just won't matter what's going on
so
outside of it.
the Texans have a new offensive coordinator because
I
you
was gonna say this helps for sure.
and he is the former passing game coordinator of the Rams, Nick Cayley.
Mhm.
Now, the Rams had to rebuild their offensive line, sort of like what the Texans are. So I think the belief is okay. The O line's going to probably be bad to start, but once they gel together, maybe they'll be good
Mhm.
because it can't get any worse than it was last year. That's the kind of like the belief. Like their belief
Something
is,
like an offensive line can always be worse.
well, it's like I guess their belief is like, hey, we had
It
the
can
thirty
always,
second, we had the 32nd ranked offensive line. If we're like the 20th ranked offensive line, we won 10 plus games. We can still win 11, 12 games. I think
if
that's the belief.
yeah.
Here's
Listen,
the thing, though. This is the
they
big
got to
thing
keep
when I
CJ
read
Stroud healthy, man.
what I read about the Texans, though, Michael. Even though they added Chubb, I don't know. I think Chubb's maybe just cooked. I don't
He's
know.
probably just cooked.
And like
Maybe he's got a couple in
Mixon
him.
is it's sort of like Mixon's like kind of like a Toyota Corolla where he's got like 300,000 miles on him, but like he still can go.
He's getting the job done.
He still gets the job done, right?
Yeah.
The Texans, according to Nick Cayley and like CJ Stroud wants to throw the ball more. Now, Michael, yeah, exactly. Like you're like,
Oh
okay,
boy.
he's gonna want to throw the ball more,
Yeah,
and
once you
he
be
has no
healthy,
offensive
man.
line, which means he's
Yeah.
gonna die. Like basically,
Yeah.
he is going to get hurt. And like, who is the backup quarterback on the
It's
Texans?
still Davis Mills.
No, no way, is it?
And then for Florida quarterback Graham Mertz, uh, 6th round pick this year,
Wow.
who Florida fans were just couldn't wait to get him out of there because they have DJ Lagway waiting in the wings.
So, I mean, Michael, when quarterbacks get hurt, it's because their O line is bad. Like, look at
Usually,
look at the Herbert injuries,
yeah.
mostly due to bad O line
It's
play.
usually bad offensive line play.
Yes. Do you think Stroud's going to be the big name QB that gets hurt for like 8-10 weeks?
He's a guy too that it's like I think about the kind of injury he'd end up having too. He feels like a ribs thing, like feels like he just takes hits and hits and hits, and he's gonna try to stand in there and make a throw one time, and maybe he'll deliver it for a strike because he is very talented. And just it's just a rib thing. Like, Jaden Daniels dealt with a rib thing last year. When he played the Eagles the first time around, we saw how much less he was running the ball that game. It can really affect a lot. Not that Shroud is like a runner or anything like that, but when your ribs are hurt, you're not as willing to stand in there and make a throw. You're not as willing to just just not throw it away and extend plays, all that sort of stuff. And there's legitimate reason to be worried about his health, and a lot of it is just it's all the offensive line is so bad. Like it's so bad. And it's a shame because the Texans have done a really great job at building out this defense and a pretty dang good job at building out from like quarterback to tight end, I guess. And everything in the middle just sucks. It's so horrible. And I don't know. I think it's enough to tank them. We'll see though. But this will be actually an intriguing division to watch. I know it's like probably the most boring division in football just because of the teams and the nature of the cities and all that sort of. No one cares about the AFC South. That's like the big whatever. I do think though this will be a pretty intriguing division. I think the teams will all be pretty close by the time it's like Thanksgiving. So
All right, man. Well, that's our show for today. And next week, we're obviously All Star
what up?
break,
Yeah, trade deadline
trade
baseball,
deadline, baseball.
and we'll
Home run
head up
derby.
north.
We'll talk about a little home run derby. Is O'Neill Cruz going to knock out a kid by hitting one of his 135-mile-an-hour line drives?
Yeah, it's a shame Acuna isn't going to be in it because it was I loved this home run derby layout. Like some people were like, "Oh, this one sucks." I'm like, "Dude, what do you mean this one sucks?" We got
It's because Aaron Judge isn't in it, so it's not like
Yeah,
they
I was
don't
like,
know
"I
who's in
don't care." We got Big Dumper Cal in there. We got James Wood in there. James Wood is awesome, by the way. My God, I would do anything for a player like James Wood to be on the Phillies. Um, O'Neill Cruz is just a mammoth of a human being. Jazz is always an electric person to watch do anything. Even boring Matt Olson hits some pretty massive tanks, so we'll see how that goes. I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to the Derby for sure. It's a
Are you
hell of
a
a lot better than
little
last year, dude.
Are you a little disappointed that Schwarbs isn't doing it?
No, because he says he's waiting for next year, which means he's a Philly, so thanks. Like, he literally I mean, that's exactly what he said. He's like, "We'll see about next year, though." I don't need Schwarber to do it unless it's here. Which, by the way, next year's home run derby is gonna be an absolute electric factory. My God. I'm willing to shell out some good
I
money
think I
for
would
the
rather
All-Star
go to the
festivities
Derby
next
than the
year.
actual All Star game, to be honest.
Yeah. Like, I'll say this my closing statement. I'll say that I feel like a stinker of a derby is far worse than like, I guess, a quote unquote stinker of a game. Because at least a stinker of a game is still like you're watching good players
When was
play
it the last
baseball.
good MLB All Star game you watched?
I mean, just because a game
There
ends
isn't. There
3-2 doesn't
isn't.
make it
That's the thing.
bad.
It's like people remember the Derby. It's like, remember when Ryan
Yeah.
Howard was hitting those nukes, or do you
No,
remember
I
when
get
Josh
it, but
Hamilton put on a show,
it's
or do you
just because
remember
it's like
when?
it's just baseball. Like sometimes,
You know why it's great? Because that scum Pete Alonso isn't in it. That's
That
why.
is a very good thing. The All-Star game with baseball, it's because you can't fake it. So at least you're going to see like an earnest played baseball game. Maybe you won't see as much hustle. Maybe pitchers will be taking a little bit off, whatever. But it's not like the NBA where you don't really play defense. It's not like the NHL where you don't really play defense either. And it's not like the NFL where that's just a flag football game now. Like you still have to pitch. You're still gonna like hitters aren't gonna go up there and just be like, because I don't feel like swinging today. Like, no, they're gonna try to hit the crap out of the ball, and like, I'll take my chances.
I
It's
think John Kruk, when Randy Johnson throws over his head, he just jokingly strikes out because he's like, I ain't dealing with
yeah,
this.
he's just like exactly. So like, is that
It's a joke. It's a joke. Like Larry Walker, the same thing happens to Larry Walker in All Star game. He takes his helmet off, Randy
he puts
Johnson,
it backwards or
puts it
whatever? Yeah.
backwards and bats right handed, and they're all laughing.
Then they let the players have fun.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyway, that's
that
our
is
show.
our show.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.